Welcome and thank you for standing by. For today's webinar, all attendees will be in a listen-only mode until the Q&A period. This session is being recorded and will be posted publicly. If you have any objections, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I'd like to turn the session over to Maria Valdesera. Maria, you may begin.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unlocking the Power of Maps on data.census.gov. My name is Maria Valdesera, and I work for the communications team for data.census.gov. I also assist data users with accessing the Census Data API and Microdata Access Tool. And so we are going to be talking about some of the different ways that you can use maps on data.census.gov today. So just for a brief outline of what we are going to be covering today, I'm going to be just going over some quick getting started tips and tricks for using mapping. Then we're going to talk about how you can customize your map, and then mapping data for complex demographic and economic tables will also be covered. And then we'll also go over how you can select your geographies using the maps directly rather than using some of the other ways like the single search bar or the advanced search. Then I will go over just some resources for learning more, and then we'll open up for questions at the end of today's session. So with thematic mapping, there are many different steps that you can take. You can find a table that contains data that you want to map, familiarize yourself with the table layout, select your geography, and create your map. And these steps don't necessarily need to be in this exact order. We offer multiple pathways to create your map in data.census.gov, and I will be showing those steps in various different combinations and iterations today. So through our demo, which I have listed here, we are going to be going over some of the ways that you can create maps in data.census.gov that you may or may not be familiar with. So first up is median age data for all states. So this is us getting started with maps. I'm going to be using a combination of both the single search and the advanced search. For those of you who are unfamiliar, the single search bar is going to be what you see on the main landing page of data.census.gov, and the advanced search is more of a filtered method where you point and click and choose different filters that can be added to your tables and subsequently your maps. So I'm going to go straight into data.census.gov now. This is our main landing page, and I am just going to type in a topic. For this, I'll just select median age, type that in. And we can click on either, you can hit enter or either hit the magnifying glass icon to bring up tables related to median age. So we can see that there is an age and sex filter that has been added. I am also going to add our geography filter, again, using the filter panel on the left side here. This is what will come up if you use the advanced search as well. So I'm going to select state. And it does sometimes say no results found. With this, I am going to just select my table first, and then you can also select your geographies via the geos button in the table ribbon. So I'm going to try that method and scroll down to state. And here we see that all states within the United States, Puerto Rico, and island areas filter come up. So I'm going to click on this checkbox, close my geos panel, and then if you open the filter panel up, you can see that that filter has now been added. So going into the table itself, we can see that this is just an age and sex table. It provides you with the total, percent, male, and the total columns, percent columns, and then breaks out the columns into male and female as well. For this, we are looking for just the median age variable. We can see that it is under the summary indicators header, and that is the variable that we are going to want to map in our demo. So we are going to either go to the Maps tab, which is located up top here, or if you click on More Tools in the table ribbon, you can click on the Map button. Either way, it'll take you to the maps. And we'll just give it a second to load. This is going to load for all states in the US. We can see that the default variable is going to be that under 5 years variable. I'm just going to zoom in. You can zoom in by either clicking the plus or minus, and it will start populating with data. I am going to show you, while we wait for the data to load, how you would change the variable to get your median age in years. So if you click on this downward facing arrow here, this will allow you to change the variables. Now, this looks a little bit different for those of you who have not used the maps in a while. This will display the data very similarly to how you will see it on the table view. So you can see the variables are listed clearly. It is divided up by the different age groups. So this is actually defaulting on the percent units, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But we have the percent dimension and the percent units that we can switch between that and number. So I'm going to switch over to number, since the median age is only going to be available in a numeric value rather than a percent value. And I'm going to switch our variable to the median age in years. So that is going to be what our map is going to switch over to. And you can see once they load, that you can see the darker shades of blue will represent the states with the higher median age, like West Virginia, Florida, Vermont, etc. So that is the first way to find and map data on the site. Going to the second part of this example, which is going to directly still use the map that we're using. We're going to be looking at median age data for all counties. So I'm going to be showing you how you can edit your geographies and then look at some of the other features on the site, including being able to change the data that's in the legend and some other table navigation that can come through the map view. So going back to this map, again, we are looking at the median age for all states, but if we want to look at it for all counties instead, we can start by clicking on this Clear Geos button at the top of the map. So this will clear all of the selected geographies in the map, and you are starting from scratch, at least in the geography section. So we can go back to the filter panel here and select county. And this is where we'll select all counties within the United States and Puerto Rico. So we can click on that new filter and hit X. Now, something to keep in mind is that since we already selected the states as our first geography, it might default to show the state level. So you're not seeing any data being mapped just yet. What you can do is select the layer button and switch from state to county. So that will provide us with the county level layer. Counties with a darker shade of blue have that higher median age, and it is taking just a moment to load. We can also go to our results panel and reselect our age and sex table. Now, this will default to the ACS 1-year estimates. For those of us who are not as familiar, the 1-year estimates are only available for populations of 65,000 or more. So while this clearly does cover some counties, we can see that all the areas in gray are not showing data. So one thing that we can do is use the dataset button in the map ribbon and switch from the 1-year estimates to the 5-year estimates. This will provide data for all counties in the US. And if you want to change the year that this data is being displayed from, we also have the year. Particular goes back to 2010 for the ACS in data.census.gov. So once that loads, I'll be able to show you, but this is the full map here. If we click on the year button, you can see that, yes, this goes back to 2010. And then since we have the map defaulting to our first variable again, you can switch the unit over to numbers. That'll change the estimate, or the dimension rather, to the total estimate. And then you can use our median age variable again And once that loads, we will be able to see those darker shades of blue with the median age in years. Now, a few other things that I wanted to show while this map loads, there we go. There are a few other stylistic choices that we can make to change this map. For example, we can use the colors button. This will allow us to change the color palette in case you need it to match a particular color scheme of a presentation that you're doing. So I'm going to select orange, and you can see that that updates automatically. Now we can zoom in and again see the updated map colors, as well as some counties that might have higher median ages. For example, if we look at La Paz County over here on the West Coast, you can see that as I zoom in, you can see that there are street lines and other labels that begin to populate as you zoom in further into the map. Another thing to do with the colors button is change their transparency. So if you would like to do that, you can bump that up all the way to 100% and you get a more vibrant color scheme. The other thing that I wanted to show is the data classes. So this is from the classes button. You can see that that is being reflected in the legend in the bottom left corner of the screen. And you can also choose from a set of predetermined options to change the way the values in your legend are broken out. So you can change the number of data classes, and we have the ability to change them into natural, quantile, equal, interval, or manual breaks. The other thing that I wanted to show in this example was the Identify tool. So the Identify button will allow you to choose a geography on the map and see more information about that geography. So I'm going to click on La Paz County, and then you can see some Identify details. For example, if you want to view the GeoID for Arizona or the GeoID for the County of La Paz, you can do so by clicking into these blue arrows that will be available through the Identify tool. And to get rid of it, you can just click on the button again, and that will remove it and show us our full screen again. I'm going to zoom out a little bit further here, just so we can get the full view of the map now. The other thing that I wanted to mention is that you can save this map via the URL. So you can copy it from the address bar and save it for later. You can bookmark it. One of the other newer tools that we have to offer, if we click into the More Tools drop down, is the print button. Now this allows you to save the map as a PDF with an image of the map legend, the variable being mapped, and the associated map and table notes. So it does take a few seconds, but it will download as a PDF. I do want to show that in our web browser. So you can see here that the median age is being shown. This is for the entire contiguous United States. We have our legend, and then finally the associated map notes. So I believe, and then I did also want to show the table button as well. So that is going to be through that More Tools tab as well. And if you click on Table, this will provide you with just a quick snapshot of the estimate that you're mapping. So right now it's looking at the median age for all counties in the US. So if you wanted to view the full table button, or excuse me, if you wanted to view the full table, you can click on the View Full Table link. And this will provide you with a view like this, since we are looking at all counties within the entire United States. This is a very large table, and it is too large to display on the screen. So even when this occurs, you can still make maps with the data from the table, or you can download the full table via this button here. So that is just a few of the customizations that you can make on data.census.gov with the mapping. So the next thing that I wanted to cover was mapping data from complex demographic tables. So maps for some tables can have long lists of data variables that may seem overwhelming at first glance. There are certainly patterns to the way the data variables are organized to help you choose the right one. And there are also new features like dimensions and units for ACS tables. Those were not previously available within the mapping feature for ACS data. But as you saw with the variable dropdown, it is now a lot simpler and easier to view the data variables as well as toggle between the units and dimensions. So in general, the data variable dropdown menu is ordered in the same way as the rows in data.census.gov. Different sections of the table may be shown in capital letters in both the table and mapping view. And the sections will also be collapsible with additional variable options underneath them. So again, as you can see, the data variables are in the mapping are displayed almost exactly how you would see them in data.census.gov's table view. This is a change from what we used to have where it was the actual data variable names and it was just a little bit more confusing. Now we've definitely streamlined things. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and this goes back to what we saw with the dimensions and the units, this will reflect what is being shown in each column of the table. So within each set of labels, the data variables are shown as dimensions and or units. So you can see that the total columns below poverty level, those are going to be shown in the number units and then under the dimensions column. And then if we switched over to percent, that's where we would see the percent below poverty level dimension as well. This ties into our next example, which is going to be looking at poverty in Charleston County, South Carolina. So 11.2% of people in Charleston County live in poverty. But what if we wanted to look at this particular data point within the county itself by using a smaller geography like census tracts? So we'll be looking for the percent poverty for all census tracts in Charleston County, South Carolina as our third example. So I'll go back into data.census.gov. Now we can click on the United States Census Bureau logo in the top left corner of the screen, and this will take us back to our main landing page. Now for this example, I am going to exclusively use the advanced search. Again, this is more of a filtered search. It's more point and click method. So any and all available search options will be available in the advanced search. So the first thing that I want to do is select our geographies. So we'll select census tract out of the geography section. And then out of the list of states, we'll select South Carolina. And then we will select Charleston County. And then finally land on all census tracts within Charleston County. And we will add that to our filters. So next is the topics that will be underneath the geography section. So only topics that are compatible with your search criteria will appear. All other topics and folders will not be shown. So this is important if you're looking at, say, smaller geographic levels like census tracts, blocks, block groups, or blocks. So right now I am going to select the income and poverty topic. Then we'll go into the poverty folder. And then finally, we'll select the poverty filter. So that will provide us with our poverty filter up top here. Now that I have both my geography and topics filter selected, I'm going to click on the search button in the bottom right corner of the screen. And here we have tables related to poverty. I'm going to click on the tables tab. The first table that comes up is S1701, which is poverty status in the past 12 months. And you can see that there are 3 columns available. We have the total, below poverty level, and percent below poverty level for each of the census tracts. Now we are going to go to the percent. We're looking for the percent below poverty level for each tract. So that's going to be this first estimate. This first estimate in the percent below poverty level column. And we can go to the Maps tab. and look at the geography that we have mapped. So this is going to be looking at the census tracts. You can make sure that you are viewing the same table. We are looking at S1701 by clicking on this results panel. And if you want to collapse it, you can click on those double facing arrows there. And this actually does default to the percent below poverty level. We can see that by these little chips that are being displayed in the variable dropdown. So this is again looking at the percent, the dimension says percent below poverty level, and for the population for whom poverty status is determined, which in this case will be the total for this table. So we can zoom in and click on the census tracts with the darkest shades of blue to see which areas have the highest population of poverty. Now going into our second, or our third rather, section after our demo. I did want to talk a little bit about how mapping data from economic tables can sometimes vary. We have, again, streamlined it a little bit so that it looks more similar to what we see with ACS tables, but it does still look a little bit different. So with data variables and economic tables, those provide primary data values for a table. They may be continuous or categorical, and a good rule of thumb is that the values are right aligned in the table itself. As another distinction, there are also dimensions in economic tables. So these are more categorical variables. They provide context to fully qualify what each data variable represents. Each unique combination of non-key dimension categories is a data row in a table, and the values are left aligned in the actual table itself. So you can see here that they're set up a little bit differently in the economic tables, what you will see in the variable dropdown. So the data variables appear in the first section after clicking the variables dropdown. That's where you'll see the number of establishments, annual payroll, etc. And then more dimensions are available with most economic survey tables versus the dimensions that we have seen in some of our other ACS tables. So you can see that we have the NAICS codes, legal form of organization code, employment size of establishment codes, etc. So that's how it's going to look when we get into our fourth example, which is looking at the total number of accommodation establishments, which is NAICS or Industry Code 721 for all counties in Florida. So I'm going to use another slightly different method for this example. If I know the table ID for my table, I can also use the single search bar to type that in directly. So I'm going to type in CB2200 CBP. This is a county business patterns table from 2022. And if I click on the magnifying glass icon, I can see that this is the only table that comes up. Now we can collapse this and see again that the dimensions over here are the left aligned and appear on the left side of the table. And if we scroll over here, we can see that the data variable columns are right aligned and appear on the right side of the table. So again, we can click on that geos button at the top of the table. Another way to select your geographies is by clicking on these or toggling the summary levels button that's at the top here. This will provide you with all of the available summary levels that are available for this table. So we can click on the prompt for the state into county summary level, which is 050. And incompatible areas are not included in this list. So we can select state into county, select Florida, and then we can select all counties in Florida. So that's going to be our geography. We can click on the X, and this is showing us that the table is too large to display. However, if we click on the map button, we can go straight to the map view. So this is defaulting to the single table that we have. If we click on the results panel, and if we can see here, this is defaulting to the total for all sectors NAICS code that we have. So if we scroll down, or if we click on this downward facing arrow, we can scroll through the data variables and then also change the dimensions of our map. So the map has 3 drop-down menus for the dimensions related to this table. We have the NAICS codes, the legal form of organization code, and employment size of establishment code. So we'll click on the drop-down menu for the 2017 NAICS code. You can get rid of total for all sectors. And then we can start typing in accommodation. And you can see here that that already comes up with that NAICS code that I mentioned of 721. So once we select that, that is then added to the map. And you can also use the data variable menu at the top of the dropdown. It will default to number of establishments. However, you can select any of these other variables like annual payroll, and the map will update to show this new variable. And then the counties with the darkest shade of blue have the highest annual payroll for the accommodation establishments. Now we have our selection map example, which the selection map allows you to choose your geography on a map as an alternative to navigating complex geography filter menus. I will say that as a rule of thumb, you can select a maximum of approximately 7 geographies using this method. That is based on the URL length that we have again, in the limitations. So just be aware of that. Again, it's a general rule of thumb that if you are using this method to select your geographies, that the max is approximately 70 geos. But in our 5th example, I'm going to show you how you can select your geographies using the maps itself. So we'll be looking for census tracts in Tacoma, Washington. And I'm going to finish up showing you all of the mapping features that we have on the site. So going back into data.census.gov and starting a new search, we are going to go directly to the Maps button, which is found in the top right corner of the screen on the landing page. So you can verify that you're in the selection map here in the left panel. And we can also collapse that for now. I'll show you how to select your tables in just a second to get some data, but we're going to click on the layer button that we looked at previously. And we're going to scroll down. These are all of the available layers that you can see on the map. And we're going to select census tract. So notice that the map now shows boundaries for census tracts. You can click on the plus and minus buttons to manually zoom and or scroll to your desired area. So I'm going to go to Washington in the Tacoma area. And that's around here. Zoom in just a little bit further. Now you can click a census tract on the map, anything that you want in this area. I'll zoom in just a little bit further too so everybody can see, but I'm going to select census tract 613. And to add this to my map, I can just click on the select button. So this will add this to our selections. It will be shown in a light blue color. And you can see that, again, as we zoom in, you can see a lot more street signs or street markers. You can see that there are other different topographical information that is available. And the other thing that I wanted to show was the base map button. This is at the top of the map. So this will allow you to view different types of base maps. Right now we are on the basic. If we switch to detailed, this will provide information like features for parks, hospitals, colleges, airports, and military installations that can be used for reference purposes. Now, if you don't want any any base map on your map itself, you can also click none. but this will just provide you with an outline of the census tracts themselves. I prefer using the basic base map for these purposes, but if you want to use the detailed base map, it is great to use for those reference purposes since it is a little bit more detailed than what we have with the basic. So I did want to show you that the site still shows 5,794 table results. If we reload this map and we reload our browser to refresh the list, we will now get table results that are only compatible with our geography selection. So I selected my census tract. Now you can see that the geography selections have gone down to 2,791. If we click on the results panel, we can select a table to access more map features. So I've just selected our P1 race decennial census table. It is the first table in this list. And now I'm just going to go over some of the other features that we have on the site. So the boundaries button at the top of the map, this allows you to overlay different geographic boundaries on top of the map that you're using. You're not necessarily getting data for these boundaries, but you can see if certain geographies fall within these other boundary lines. So I'm going to select the boundary line and boundary label for place. And if I click X, I can zoom out. Oops, there we go. Can zoom out and start to see, names for Tacoma, Faircrest, other different place level geographies that are now available on the map. So the map will show boundaries for our primary layer, which is census tracts, and then our selected style, which is place. So the other thing that I wanted to show was the selection tool. This allows you to draw either a box, circle, or custom shape, what we call a lasso, to select census tracts in bulk. So I'm going to select the lasso, and then I'm just going to draw a lasso over the area that I want to select. And any census tracts that the custom shape includes or touches will then be added to your selections. Additionally, if you want to, again, manually add census tracts, you can do so by clicking on the select button. I'll just zoom in a little bit further here. You can also use the selection map to deselect geographies that you previously selected. So if I want to click on, say, tract 626, I can deselect it, and that will be removed from my map. And again, just going over some of the other features that we have to offer. We also have the GeoJSON button. This provides you with boundary files for the map in a zip file format. We also have the table button, which I mentioned previously. The notes button provides you with the table notes for whichever table you have selected. And then finally, we have the share button. This is just another way to get the hyperlink for the map. You can also share the map via social media or email, and you can copy it directly from the share button. Now, if we click on the tables tab at the top, you can see that now the data for the census tracts that we selected in the map are now being displayed in the table. So if you are looking for a specific table in this list, you can either choose from this list or you can add additional search criteria, such as a topic, and that'll be in the filter panel. And so now you can get more detailed data for the census tracts that you selected directly from the map view. So that does conclude my demo for today. I did want to just let you know how you can reach out to us if you do have any questions on mapping in data.census.gov, if you have any general questions for using data.census.gov, or if you have any additional comments with the functionality of the site, we are always available to take that feedback via our primary contact, which is census.data@census.gov. Additionally, if you would like to reach out to us and schedule a call or something of that nature, we are always open to scheduling it that way if you would like to provide your feedback that way. I also wanted to let you know how you can sign up for email updates. That link is provided on the slide and also via QR code. So I don't think I mentioned this previously, but we are sending out these slides in 5 to 10 business days via Census Academy. So if you would like to view these slides, those will be available there within that time frame. And I also wanted to let you know how you can sign up for additional workshops through data.census.gov. So we have longer form workshops that are limited to 50 participants per session because they are participatory classes that focus on different aspects of data.census.gov. So that includes a basic and advanced usage of the site. We also do have one specifically on mapping. So if you would like to dive more into mapping capabilities after today's webinar, you can sign up for that one. We also have a basics of using both the microdata access tool and the census API classes, which are both very helpful if you'd like to dive into our other data tools that we help manage. And then in just a few moments, we will begin the audio Q&A section. So just as a refresh on instructions to ask your questions over the line, we invite you to use the raised hand icon located next to your name in WebEx. When we call your name, please unmute yourself to ask your question. There may be a little bit of a lag, so please allow a couple of seconds before you speak. So you can start queuing up now with your questions. And before we move on to Q&A, I would like you all to give us your thoughts on today's webinar through a post-webinar survey form. So the evaluation survey will appear in a window automatically when you exit WebEx. Please do not close it. We would like to know if you have any notes for us, ways to improve these webinars, or if you have any ideas on other topics you would like to see covered in the future. So please take a moment to fill out the survey once we wrap up the webinar. And while people are queuing up, I did just want to provide you with a little bit more contact info. So if you have questions, remaining after our session concludes, or if you'd prefer to email us your question, please feel free to reach out to any of the email inboxes listed here. If you are a member of the media, you may contact the Public Information Office at pio@census.gov. For general data.census.gov questions from the public or for training requests, please reach out to the Center for Enterprise Dissemination. Again, our questions and feedback email is census.data@census.gov. And then for training requests, it is ced.cedsi.outreach@census.gov. And I did see a couple hand raises come through, so I'm going to stay on this slide. If Greg, you want to start unmuting people that are in the queue for their questions.
Yes, looks like first question from Owen.
Thank you. I just wanted to say thanks for doing this presentation. This has been pretty eye-opening. I use the census almost every day in my job as a metropolitan planning organization GIS coordinator. So I'm constantly making maps with this census data, and this is going to help me to kind of streamline some of the work that we do with our urban planners as I'm getting requests for census data, and it takes me a lot of time to download, make the maps, and so on. So this is great. Really appreciate this. So my question is, do you guys have plans to continue to add other functionality to these tools, such as the ability to change labels on the boundaries, update boundary colors, or do you plan to offer different analysis, such as like comparisons between tables or like bi-choropleth mapping?
Wow, great question. Yeah, I mean, I can speak for myself. I mean, the difference between the mapping when I first started in this branch and to now has greatly changed. So I think that there's always room for feedback and improvement. And certainly, that's something to definitely consider. I would say that we are always looking to make different updates. I don't know specifically what our development team has in mind for mapping, but I do know that we definitely do take user feedback into consideration. One thing that I had seen time and time again was the print functionality, and when we finally got that, it was like, a lot of people said that it was a huge improvement in what they were looking for within the mapping. So I would say that just blanket statement, we are always looking to make changes and improvements. And if you would like to say, let us know of anything specific after today's call, you can certainly get in touch with us and we will include that in our feedback. And yes, Jessica is also putting, again, our email address in there, but again, that is census.data@census.gov. But I'm glad to hear that it's going to be a big help for you, because yeah, a lot of people are not aware of some of the capabilities that we have, and we're hoping to improve that in the future. All right, did we have any other questions or hands queued up?
Maria, not at this time that I see.
All right, great. Well, I will give just a few seconds or a few minutes for people to, if there are any other outstanding questions, I'll continue on with providing some resources that are available. So one thing to keep in mind is that, again, your questions and comments are extremely important to us at the data.census.gov team, because they help guide us with the work that we still need to do on the site. Again, a lot of changes have been made since I started at Census. So if you have anything that you'd like to share with us, or if you do have any questions about the Census API, data.census.gov, or microdata access, you can again email our branch at census.data@census.gov. In addition, be sure to check out our resources page, where you'll find out more information on the site and guidance for using it. So that includes video tutorials, recorded and upcoming webinars, information on upcoming releases, as well as how-to materials. And again, you can also view, I mentioned, our monthly newsletter, where you can see the recent changes and fixes that we have made to the site. And then finally, I did want to touch on our data dissemination and training team. So that is our data dissemination specialists. Those are our data experts. You can request a free training for your organization. You can also go over the data gems and other courses that are available at census.gov/academy. And they also provide you with webinars that are available. You can learn about the latest data releases and tools. The data dissemination specialists provide a lot of support to the public in a similar way that our branch does, but they have a wide breadth of knowledge on all census tools. So if you would like to get in contact with them, their email address is census.askdata@census.gov, or you can call them at 1-844-ASK-DATA. So with that, I am going to just leave it on this slide here. And were there any other questions that came through or hands raised that I should address over the line?
Maria, I have two questions kind of I cobbled together
Sure.
based off of what we received. So is it possible to pull data from different lines of a table and then map that new estimate out? And can you map different tables all in one map? Like, would you be able to combine any of that together and map it?
Great. Those are great questions. Yeah, so to answer the second question first, you can only map data from one table at a time. We do not have the functionality currently to map data from multiple different tables at once. If you want to view, or if you want to map different lines of a table, and this race table is probably not the best one to do, so I'll just use SO101 as an example. But again, if you go to the maps And again, as I mentioned before, the lines of the table are pretty much corresponding with what you're going to see in the variable dropdown. So, you know, if you want to map, say, the 50 to 54-year-old population, that is what's going to be found directly in the table view as well. You can see that it's labeled very similarly. The only difference is, again, the rows are what you're going to, for the most part, see in the drop down here. And then the dimensions are what you'll see in the columns. So you can see that since we have the percent columns available, we have the percent total and then male and female. And then if we use the units button and select number, it'll now show the total estimates and then the male and female estimates. So these are going to be representative of the columns, and these will be representative of the rows. Is that kind of what that question was getting at?
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
No,
great.
I think that answers it. Yeah.
Great. Well, with that, I do just want to thank everybody for attending today's webinar. Again, if you have any additional comments or questions on either the mapping or anything else related to data.census.gov, the Census API, or microdata access, you can reach out to us via census.data@census.gov. But I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and I will hand it back over to you, Greg. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Maria. Thanks, Jessica. And this concludes today's webinar. Thank you for your participation. You may disconnect at this time.